Hello, I'm Doug, and welcome to the Crew of Japan podcast, a weekly podcast where we take you on audio journeys through Japanese culture.
This time on Crew of Japan podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. So again, we're doing a little chat here, me and Jen, before we dive into our episode about solo travel versus group travel.
Yes.
Because both Jen and I have traveled Japan a good bit.
Yeah.
I feel like we both have experienced it from both sides of the coin, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And not always the best experiences sometimes with solo or group. Honestly, every
yeah,
way.
no, both can turn bad very, very fast.
Yeah, you can either say, I'm going to wing it and do my own thing, and then you just stumble around and end up doing nothing really great at all.
Yeah.
That sounds like a me day sometimes. But like there's also times when you can really find yourself in some really awesome scenarios and situations. But, you know, for group travel, Jen, like, have you ever really done any group tours and stuff in Japan?
Yeah, so like I kind of think of it as like early 2000s. It was in 2014. It was for my honeymoon, and I remember it was my husband's first time going to Japan, and his mom was very nervous about him going to Japan. So she like told us, I'm booking you this tour and you're going to go on it. So I was like, okay, we'll do 1 week this tour, 1 week I'm the tour guide and I will take care of your son. So we did this tour, and I remember like it was going the golden route, Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and like things in between. Like we went to Toyota in Nagoya and Aichi. So that was fun. But like the problem with it is that you definitely felt rushed. Like the only time that you had time to yourself was towards the end of the day when you're like pooped and you want to just go back to the hotel and sleep. Mm-hmm. But like other than that, it's like, okay, you have 10 minutes to look around, but then meet back with the group. And I remember specifically we were in Tokyo. And that's the problem with these tours. Like it just said Golden Route and it just had the cities, but not like specifics of what you were doing and where you were going. So like at the time, I didn't even know I was in Odaiba, but we were in Odaiba by like the Statue of Liberty that Tokyo has, the makeshift one, the little tiny one.
Yeah.
And I remember we were in this like mall and we were eating lunch there, and she was like, okay, you have 10 minutes to look around, but then you have to come with us. And my husband and I saw this really cool, it looked like an indoor amusement park. And we didn't even know what it was at the time. But now that I do know what it was Tokyo Joy Palace, I think is what it's called. It has like a bunch of Sega names to it. And I remember like we would have loved to just go check it out, but we literally couldn't. We couldn't. And by the time we were done for the day, we were like, we're not going back out. We're too tired.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with those tours. It's sometimes, and you know, I feel for the tour guide sometimes. You know, how big was your tour? How big was your tour?
Oh, it was, so we were the typical tour. It was a bus. Our tour guide did have a flag.
Yeah.
But I will say she was a very nice Japanese woman. The people were also really cool. I'm actually friends with one of the young couples that we met who was on the tour as well. I think there was about 30 of us though. So pretty big.
Yeah. And I can imagine it's like corralling cats, right? You know, you just want to make sure everyone's back, and you got to be really strict and regimented with it. And I think that's the kind of the image that you get of like group tours. That's the stereotype. That's the vibe in my mind. And again, I'm not the only time, but one of the times I've done like a group tour like that was taking a bus with a friend of mine from Jet from Tokyo to Fuji, and climbed Fuji as a group tour.
Yeah.
Which you're like, okay, this is an excuse, you know, to get out there and some kind of structural guardrails to ensure that I'm participating in this tour, right?
Yeah.
Climbing Mount Fuji, essentially. Something I would never do by myself. I would never go out there by myself and say, I'm going to go climb Fuji, you know, whatever. Because I would have to map everything out and all this stuff. A lot of responsibility that I didn't really feel like doing. A lot of work.
Yeah.
But then this was like, you get on the bus, you get off, you follow the person with the flag up the trail, you know, from station 4 or 5, I forget which one it was, to each station. And you don't really, it's not like you're wandering, you know, like kind of like climbing and doing it at your whatever. You're like literally the pace is controlled by the line in front of you and the line behind you. If you're going slow, then you have that pressure of like, I'm slowing this group down.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, it felt very, I don't know, it was weird. But I mean, they also set us up with like a little place to stay because we got somewhere at like, I think it was like 6 p.m. or 5 p.m., ate like an early dinner, slept for like 4 hours. They gave you a little bunk. you sleep, and then you get up at like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or midnight, and then you would climb to the summit. But again, that whole climb was with a bunch of other tour groups that were all literally in a single file line. You spent more time probably waiting in between steps or climbs than you did actually walking at some points.
Well, that's cool that you got to do the climb.
I got to do it, but it was just more like it was weird though. It was like I did it, but I'm like I'm in a single file line climbing Mount Fuji, like ants climbing an anthill, right? You know, like
it kind of looks like ants on an anthill. I mean, my tour, we actually went to Mount Fuji as well, but we didn't climb it. We just went to like one of the lower stations.
The Lawson?
I don't know, not the Lawson. It was actually like an actual station.
Yeah.
And it was off season because it was in the spring. And so we just kind of looked at the snow that was on the mountain and then we left.
Took a few pictures. Yeah.
It wasn't anything.
Check box off, right?
Yeah, it wasn't anything like special. It was just kind of like look around, play in snow. Okay, leave.
Yeah, but there's some things to group tours though that we've had these experiences where the stereotypical, like I think a lot of people imagine like, hey, pull up to a tourist destination, unload the bus, people go snap a few pictures, load back on the bus, next stop. You know, that's the kind of thing I think a lot of people get the image of.
Yeah.
But, I think that's changed too because, on my Matsue exchange trip, we had a local guide that gave us a small group tour. And I think these small group tours are really kind of the things that are really starting to take off.
Yeah.
These smaller ones that allow you to kind of connect with the communities and whatnot. And I think that's kind of doing away with the negative stereotype of, these group tours.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, these smaller group tours, because they're so much smaller, they're able to interact with the local community and be able to show people that. Whereas I feel like with that traditional 30, 40 group tour kind of thing, it's really hard to bring that many people into a small space, an intimate space that is owned by a local. So yeah, I think, we're doing away with that early 2000s, 90s kind of group tour definition, and we're coming into like a new age of group tours, especially in Japan.
Yeah, and again, this episode is kind of framed solo travel versus group travel. I mean, there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah,
there's
definitely.
things that maybe it's better for maybe some travelers prefer one or the other. Maybe there's a type of traveler where group tours cater towards them more than solo exploration, So to help us navigate this kind of conversation, we brought back a former guest, friend of the podcast.
Yes.
Ryotaro Sakurai, who joined us when we did our Miyagi episode back in season 5, where we learned all about Miyagi Prefecture. And Ryotaro himself is very, very, very well versed in tourism and around Japan, but also tours. Because Ryotaro himself and his company recently acquired a company called Umami Travel, and they're going to be hosting and doing their own tours. So to help us kind of navigate this conversation and to really explore the benefits of solo travel versus group travel, we decided to reach out to Ryotaro and see if he'd love to come on and talk. And fortunately, he agreed. So this is a really awesome conversation and something where you really can find the benefits and how group travel can really connect you to Japan in other ways that you can't when you're just doing your own thing. So without further ado, we're going to just jump into the episode. So let's go. Are you new to the crew? Yokoso. We hope you enjoy this episode. If you like what you hear today, then you'll really love our back catalog of episodes from earlier this season and previous seasons. We've had some incredible guests, like travel expert and YouTuber Ryotaro Sakurai discovering Miyagi Prefecture, longtime Fukushima resident William McMichael discussing Fukushima's recovery through educational tourism, Joy Jarman-Walsh of Seek Sustainable Japan podcast visiting Hiroshima, and so much more. After you finish up this episode, hit that subscribe button or follow or whatever it is, and get notified when new episodes come out. Then while you wait for the new episode to drop, play catch up with the crew. But before you do any of that, let's dive into today's episode. I feel like last season we didn't really do travel episodes justice. We didn't have as many as we normally do, but one topic that we've always wanted to talk about has been like solo travel versus group travel.
Yeah, I think I had that on the books for like season 1 or 2, and we never got around to doing it.
Yeah, it just was one of those things where like, oh, we'll get to it eventually. Or, we have, a couple ideas, but then it always gets redirected to like, hey, we'll spotlight this prefecture instead or whatever. But as we were planning out the season, I saw some news about a former guest of ours who is joining us again today, Ryotaro Sakurai. Hey, Ryotaro, how you doing?
Hello, how are you doing? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So I saw some news on social media and I was listening to the Abroad in Japan podcast. You were on with Chris talking about that you were starting your own group travel company, about
Yes.
tours and things like that. So, that was like, hold on, this is like perfect. We want to do this episode. We have a connection with someone that is starting their company, doing group tours. It was just like kind of perfect. But before we get into all that, it's been over a year since we last sat down and talked. How have you been? What you been up to?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's been the huge year for me. Like, because I mean, one of the biggest changes ever happened to like me or my company is just to acquire a travel agency here in Tohoku, here in Sendai. Because I mean, 4 years, I think you guys know that I've been kind of making YouTube videos introducing like Japan to the world, but like I'm more now involved in like a much wider part of like inbound tourism by acquiring a company. Because I mean, I always use this word, 4 words to describe tourism, right? Create, sell, welcome, and share. That's what I do. Because I always create tours, right? Not only doing YouTube, like I always create tours. Like one of the tours like I might have talked about is Mount Iwafune Explosion Experience, where I explode people. It's just I don't go into it so deep, but anyway. So we create unique tours. But then at the same time, by acquiring this travel agency, it's Umami Travel, easy to remember. So we now can be able to like sell products that we actually created, these tours. Before, I just made tours and like let people sell it for me. But now I myself can sell tours. And then I just wanted to like tell you that what we do at my company the most is actually trainings. Like we help local communities prepare for the world to come because many Japanese people, especially in my area, Tohoku area, people are not used to like communicating with like foreign tourists. Like they're all like all thinking, oh, I gotta be perfect in English. No, that's fine. Just be natural. Just be friendly. Just be welcoming. That's why I said welcome. That's one thing. So I do a lot of trainings to like department stores and travel agencies and restaurants and hotels and all that. And finally, YouTube. That is share. They're sharing what's happening to the world. So now what I'm saying right now, so because we have create, sell, welcome, share, those are the 4 things that I always wanted to do, but this sell part was missing piece. And now I have this travel agency. Now I can do all the 4 phases that I wanted to do. So that was a big change.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that motto really, I feel like that's so perfect for you because you are perfect in like all those segments of your motto. And I feel like that motto itself makes you a very busy man.
You're always traveling. Every time I look at your Instagram, you're not only in Japan, you're in different countries.
About 3 weeks ago, I was in like, where was it? Chiang Mai. And then 2 months ago, I was in Laos. So like, it's been kind of busy.
Yeah. So today's topic, we kind of already talked about solo travel versus group travel, but I want to kind of step back for a second because I think a lot of people, when they want to travel to Japan, it's something that a lot of people don't naturally think about. Like I feel like group travels are kind of out there, but especially from a Western perspective, I feel like, most people's default assumption when going to Japan is, hey, I'm just going to figure it out myself. I'm going to plan out my own travel itinerary. I'm going to look on Instagram and see what the hot spots are and things like that. And, to be honest, Japan welcomes that. I mean, it's so visible on Instagram and social media, YouTube. Not only that, though, like trains are pretty efficient and easy to navigate. But because of that, a lot of people but don't approach the idea of group travel. So why do you think that is that way? Like, is that solo first mentality something you've noticed pretty common among people planning their first or even second trips to Japan?
Well, Japan is probably the easiest countries on the whole world on earth to travel. Because I mean, trains are reliable. Public transportation is like, it's amazing. It's all punctual. Crime rate is like so low. And all signs are everywhere in English recently in Tokyo and those like in all these areas. And the people are, quite friendly. I mean, like they might not speak English, but if you just talk to them, they are really kind and so they don't like, just run away or anything. So why would I need a tour, right? I think there are 2 totally different things, the group tours and solo tour traveling. Because it's whether you can experience Japan that most visitors never get to see. It's something that like group tour can do. Because solo travelers, I mean, right now what you can do is like you said, you can see Instagrams, you can watch Abroad in Japan, Ryotaro in Japan, you can find all these places to see, things to eat. But yet there are things that you still don't see, especially in Tohoku. I mean, there's so many things that actually I couldn't show on YouTube. There's one video that Chris and I did in Aomori to visit Osorezan. It's a kind of sacred mountain with little volcanoes coming out with all those like kind of scary kind of temple. But I could not post it because like the temple did not allow to do it. So there are places like that we're not allowed to, or like we're not supposed to show because it's sacred or not allowed and stuff like that. That is something that, for instance, my company can do, or like any other company as well. Like, because they are so rooted in society that they know people, they know places, and these are the things that you don't really see in social media. So that is something that, and you guys should tailor your tour as well. For instance, in Umami tours, not only myself, but my staff as well, we'll do the hearings. Like, what are you interested? If you're interested in, like, for instance, I don't know, Jujutsu Kaisen, the anime, and then we actually look for the places that are shown in the anime, right? And then we'll take you there and stuff like that. So really, these group tours will take you to whatever that you are interested in, and the places that are not shown on the social media at all.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, I feel like having that way to kind of get a foot in the door where, you can't as an individual is kind of nice. And having that inside ticket,
Let's unpack that a little, because when most people hear group travel, they probably think like of the tour buses, the follow me, I have the flag kind of person. um, so it's obviously probably more than just that. And that's probably like more stereotypical kind of tour. But like, what would you actually define group travel to be like? And, what different forms can it take?
Well, I mean, like you said, like, I think that the group travel has a like image problem, right? You can like, when you hear the word, like you said, like, bus with the 40 people with the flags, oh, come this way, come that way. And also not only the image of the buses, but also like, 5 cities in 6 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to eat this, you have to eat that, you have to go this place, you need to come back in half an hour or even like 10 minutes. That's kind of has that image problem. But recently, group travels is like different. Group travels of today can be like almost like 6 people hiking with local guide, like me, for instance. It can be learning from like a craftsman, a small workshop, like, just group of 3. So the only group travels that I see in Japan right now is like a maximum of, say, 7 people. Like 10, I rarely see 10. 10 is too much already. So I think for those who are actually thinking that group travel is to be like 30 or 40 people doing the same thing all together, no, it's not. I think you need to actually change your, mindset.
Yeah, almost like the industry has kind of changed and transformed into something different now.
Exactly.
It's no longer that stereotype.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
That's funny, like we were talking about the stereotype, because I had a friend of mine who is planning a trip with his partner and her family, and there like they were going to do a group travel, but they were literally doing one of those ones that you kind of described, like 6 days, 7 cities, hop on a bus, hop on and off, do this, like tight itinerary. It seems not fun. Like it just seems, but I guess maybe some people, like structure and like the, hey, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first time out of America. They like that structure that someone's going to put the guardrails on them, hold their hand, take them from place A to place B and all that stuff. So like for that type of super structured tour, that's kind of like what I imagine the type of person that would want to do a group travel thing.
Yeah, and like people who are nervous about going to Japan for the first time, who's maybe never even been abroad and they're choosing Japan as their first. I can see that being like something that people would want to utilize a group tour for.
My follow-up question though is, like with a broader picture in mind, like are there certain types of travelers or maybe travelers that have been to Japan multiple times, but maybe they reach a certain stage where group travel makes more sense than just going out on your own and kind of like winging it?
Right. I think what's most important, especially in the places like, Tohoku or Northern Japan, where things are not in the guidebook, is the guide. Japanese national government is actually subsidizing to train English guides because that is something that's most needed in whole Japan right now. Because, guide is someone that actually takes you to deeper Japan, culturally and also historically. And then, like I said, the group tours recent group tours are like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people. And then these guys will answer you every single question that you have in your mind. And that is, I think, something that is most valuable, because those information that you get these guys are the things that you want to actually tell your friends when you get back home. So your trip in Japan is right now is like the first time is like you say Kyoto, Osaka, maybe Hiroshima, but then that's where the local guys become incredibly valuable when you actually go to the countryside. And guiding is something that's, I think, the most important thing to group travel.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because that made me think back to we did an episode about traveling Hiroshima back in season 4 or 5.
Yeah,
I can't
I
remember.
think 4 or 5.
Yeah, we did an episode, and our guest was someone who has her company's name is Inbound Ambassador. And she does like local tours, and well, I guess she does group travel too, but like she helps train local tour guides to kind of help facilitate and navigate and show people around Hiroshima, like kind of outside of like what people expect to go see. And she emphasized the importance of a local tour guide. If you're going somewhere and you want to really get a good feel for it, just what you said, like get a local guide, because they can show you the ins and outs, the historical context, the cultural context of certain things that you may walk by and see a rock and you don't realize that rock is actually like, a monument to something, and you just walk by it.
Yeah, you just ignore it, right? It's like you're just passing. Yeah, but it could be something that's most important. Okay, so there's like kind of the inside of like what's happening in Japanese tourism right now. So we have this national certification of being a multilingual guide. Okay, there's a national certificate for that. I mean, you need to pass really hard test to get this license, right? And then there are many of them. So until like 2018, you needed to have this license in order to do the guiding and get the money. However, in 2018, you don't need that anymore, because there are just almost too many foreign visitors coming to Japan. They're like now in a shortage of guides. So it wasn't enough just by having those people with a license. So now the problem of these people, that now, not everyone, of course, but like people with a license are the people who are really good at studying, meaning that they're really good at tests, like English, whatever. But so they're really good at explaining history, explaining cultures, but not letting people wow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the practical sense. They're not good at the practical doing.
Yeah, they're like almost a curator at the museum, or like, you know what I mean? Like just explaining, this drawing is, this picture is, this is that, the 1990 or whatever, 15, So they're really good at it, but they don't really let people go like, oh shit, this is so, I didn't know that. I want to tell this to my mom or friend or whatever. This is the quality that guide needs. And then they don't have that. So that is why Japanese government, national government invests so much money as a subsidy into the trainings of new guides recently.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. That was kind of, I knew that the local guide thing was kind of on the rise. But I didn't realize, there's a certificate that you needed overall, which makes sense. I feel like to do anything in Japan, you need a certificate. I mean, so
I know.
There's like a test. Yeah.
It's like, even speak Japanese, right? You need a test.
Right.
Well, on the flip side, what does solo travel give you that maybe a group setting can't replicate? Because there has to be a reason why there's that default assumption that we talked about that exists in the first place.
Right. I mean, I absolutely love like solo travel. Solo travel like gives you complete freedom, right? Even like the small group tours, you need to follow people at least, or follow guide. In solo travel, like you can wake up like when you want, and then you can change plans like whenever you want as well. But some of the favorite travel memories that happened because I accidentally got lost. You know what I mean? Like recently, I went to Laos, but because I just want kind of strange, kind of habitual thing that I don't go straight to Laos. I don't go straight to destination that I want to go. I always want to go via somewhere so that, I can see something different. So this time I went to Laos via China, but then I crossed border on the ground, not by flying. I had to take a bus like that goes to the border. And then actually I couldn't find the time of the bus. and then when it leaves and then when it arrives or whatever. So I stayed at the hotel. I woke up in the morning, 5 a.m., went to the bus stop and said terminal and said, oh, where's the bus? Luckily, I found the bus that was leaving like half an hour after. But that gave me a worry. That gave me anxiety and everything. But at the same time, it was fun. Oh, shit, I found the bus. Oh, God, I'm so lucky. That excitement actually can maybe only give you, because if you're with a friend, you don't want to like let your, I don't know, girlfriend or whoever like wake up at 5 a.m., without knowing that when the bus is leaving. That you can only do that when you're solo traveling. So that is something that I like the most about, the freedom sometimes, comes at the cost of death. You know what I mean?
No, I 100% agree. And Jen's heard this story, or not this story, but just heard about this many times. But like, I mean, I just got back from Ibaraki earlier in June, about to leave in a couple days. But I got to Ibaraki, and one thing I do, because I'm there with family, my kids are doing like school for like a few weeks or whatever. So during the day, it's just, my wife, her mom, and me in their house. And my wife goes and does some stuff. And she's like, hey, go do what you want to do. And it is just me. I'm like in countryside Ibaraki, and I just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go and pick a train station on like the train line. I'm going to look around on the Google Maps, like maybe, a bit out, and find the destination. And I'm just going to walk there. And, I'm just like listening to music. I'm walking along the streets, sometimes through backwoods and like, not woods, with bears and everything. I don't know about woods anymore. But I'll cut through like, tambo, like rice fields. And, you find these little... like little shrines, like pocket shrines or torii gates, like in the middle of nowhere, or just really, you just happen to take a left turn, and then there's an opening where it's like kind of hills or mountains, and then there's a field in the middle or water running through. Just absolutely gorgeous, and things you would never put on a regular itinerary, like just wandering through countryside and finding things along the coast or things like that. Grab a beer and like chill and park it outside of a Lawson, which I know you're not supposed to do, but like take it easy. It's your pace, right? You can kind of do what you want to do and explore how you want to explore.
I think that pace is, the word. That's a key word for like solo traveling. Because I mean, even if you're with a girlfriend, right? She's got different pace, different interests, different everything. So she doesn't necessarily like, just follow you with this wandering tumble and like rice paddy and everything, right? But if you're a solo traveler, and you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then people have different interests.
Exactly.
For example, when I was taking students to Kyoto for the summer, obviously they're young college students. So I know what they're really like, their image of Japan is. So we go do the things that, we know they want to do. But then like on a free weekend, we call it, I would be like, hey, I'm going to this mountain that is a little further away. Would anyone like to come? Just to give them like the out of normal experience. And some of them would bite on it, and then some of them would be like, nah, I'm good. I'll just stay behind. And I feel like the solo travel kind of caters to, you kind of get to do what you want to do, and you kind of make it, how you want to make it.
Yeah. It's like accidental travel is what I like to call it.
That's it. Accidental. Yeah. That's
So anyway, back to the group travel though.
Right.
You've personally participated in many group travel experiences, watching your social media and hearing your stories, not only in Japan, but around the world as a traveler and a guide. By experiencing it yourself, like what did it teach you about group travel and what works and what doesn't?
Right. So I think I joined my first group travel. That was back in 1980s, I guess. That was like a trip in Hong Kong or something. Well, that's one of the tours that, like you visit like 5 or 6 places, and then you go to lunch at this place and dinner at this place and with a guide, and then you have to like walk around, and, then the end of the day, you just forget like the places you went. That was my first experience. I've been to both sides. However, I just mentioned about the Laos, right? The reason why I went to Laos was to actually join this group tour. The group tour that you would never know who's going to be in your group until the last minute. That is something I love about these group tours. I went to Laos, and there's a place called Luang Namta. Luang Namta is famous for the eco tour to visit the local mountain tribes and stay there a night with them at one of the houses. Now it walks about like 16 kilo. What is the mile in 60 kilo? 10 miles, I guess. Yeah. So I walked 10 miles to the mountain village, and I eat with them with hand. And I cooked a little bit as well. And I talked with them, but I guess, again, with a guide, right? I mean, I wouldn't walk to 10 miles with the jungle without a guide. So there was a guide, an English-speaking guide, and he was from the village. So he spoke the village language besides Laos language. So he actually translated how people live there, what they do for a living, or is it just growing rice, or just do some other businesses, or whatever. I talked to kids, and that was amazing. That was one of the best group travels like I've ever done. And I told you before, I never knew who I was going to travel with until the last minute. And then it happened to be like 5 people, me, 3 Israeli guys in 20s, and a French girl in 50s. So 5 of us. So we became friends, and instantly, like in 10 minutes, whatever, we introduced each other. Oh, let's go. Then we went into one mountains, ate together, the 8 dozen with hands together. And then we became all friends. And then one guy, the Islamic guy, happened to be the guy who was studying Japanese, and he spoke quite good. And he was actually coming to Japan to improve his Japanese at Japanese language school. I think he's starting this month, and he's going to visit me next month. So that was something that I like about these group travels, that you never know until last minute who you're going to travel with.
That's awesome.
That is great. And that reminded me of, I went to Hilo in Hawaii on the Big Island.
Yeah, Hilo.
And a friend of mine and I were like, hey, let's do a Mauna Kea stargazing tour. Like, go to the top of Mauna Kea, see the summit, catch some stars and whatnot. And that was one of the things too. Like, we signed up on a website, and it was just, you get picked up from wherever, and you don't know who's going to be on your tour. You don't know if it's going to be a van full of people, like 10 people, or if it's going to be just you and your buddy and the tour guide. And it ended up being like a Korean couple who was on their honeymoon, didn't speak any English, a Chinese guy, and then me and my friend. And that was pretty much it. And it was just kind of like, by the end, you kind of you just naturally, you experience something really awesome together, and you bond over that. And then you may make friends for a lifetime, or it's just that one moment in time, that you become these friends, and then everyone goes back to their lives. It's really kind of a cool aspect of it, because you do think back, you're like, yeah, I met these really nice people on this trip, and I wonder how they're doing,
Yeah, you don't get that sometimes from solo traveling, depending on if you go out of your comfort zone and try to interact with people. Whereas a group tour, you might actually have that opportunity very easily to make new friends.
Yeah. And after this tour, then we went clubbing together.
Oh,
we went drinking. That is good about it. I mean, obviously, if you were to become solo again, you can say no to it, of course.
yeah.
But then, if you're the good people with good vibes or whatever, why don't we just,
why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? And then next morning, what are you doing tomorrow or whatever? I'm leaving tomorrow and I'm staying tomorrow. Just saying goodbye again and see you in Japan and see you somewhere else. It's quite, that's something I like about like solo traveling together, bonded with group traveling sometimes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk itineraries for a second, because the planning process can look different depending on, which route to go. So how does putting together, a solo trip compare to planning a group trip? What catches people off guard about either scenario?
All right. So I think planning a trip, your own trip, is like almost like a second job. You know what I mean? Like you research hotels. I mean, restaurants, train tickets, you know what I mean? Like, opening hours, reservations, and transport connections and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some people like me love those processes. It's like Tetris. You know what I mean? Like, you arrive this station, okay. So, and like half an hour later, this train leaves, so like you can change whatever. They maybe need half an hour, maybe gives you some time to get a sandwich. You know what I mean? I love those things. But some people find it so stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. So I think a good experience removes a lot of stresses, and but the flexibility has value too. So I don't think one is better than the other, but it depends on what you want to maximize. Definitely. Maybe freedom or depth. So freedom, the solo travelers, right? So you can go around whenever, you can wake up whenever you want, and you go to travel, like a rice paddy, you fly drone and whatever, you can do whatever you want. However, maybe it doesn't give you the depth with the guide, giving you why the rice paddy is square. you know, and why people are praying at this time of the year or whatever, and those cultural, historical aspect. And so ideally, I think the best Japan trip has both. Like I said, Laos, I did solo and group. So people, I think, who come to Japan should go, especially repeaters, right? And if you come here for the second time, third time, fourth time, and you've done Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, now I think it's your turn to do both solo and a small group.
And so you just mentioned doing the homework is like a stressor sometimes for people. How much homework should someone be doing to find the right group trip for them? Like, what are some of the things that you as an individual, when you're planning your own group trips, but then as a company, like, what are you looking for? And then what are some red flags? Because I know, like that Mauna Kea group travel thing that I did, there was like 10 options you could choose from. And how do you know which one's the right one? That's my part where I get like paralysis by analysis, and I'm like, oh God, I gotta make a decision. I don't want to just someone tell me which one to pick. You know, like that. It's one. It's one of those things that I don't want to say struggle with, but it's like it really makes it hard to pick one. At some point, I'm just like, all right, this one's the highest rated on whatever. Just go with that. Boom, done, all done. But what do you recommend, like in terms of like, do you go too deep into the reviews, or are there red flags that you look for?
Well, I wouldn't really judge tour by like, how many places you visit or, how many things that you eat. But I normally, before I join, if I like join any tour, like when I go solo, because right now I'm thinking to actually go to Malaysia or Indonesia to join and orangutan animal, the monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go in the jungles and just try to find the orangutan. And that is a tour. So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing the research with the OTA, the online travel agency, Get Your Guide, stuff like that. Via Viata. I do that once. But the thing is, I do not reserve. I read it really carefully and everything, but I don't reserve it. I go there and then I talk to people. I go into the agencies right at the city and then I reserve it there. That's what I do because two reasons. One, like you said, you can't really tell just by looking at the OTA, the Orient Travel Agency, what it's like. You want to talk to people. You want to like ask questions, right? So you go there. And then secondly, it's a lot cheaper when you go there and you reserve face to face. And then again, when it happened to me in Laos, they tell you, oh, tomorrow morning, the tour you're leaving tomorrow morning now has like the Swedish guy and this and this. And now we have 4 people. And this tour, if you join, it will be 5 people. And if you join, I give you more discount. You know what I mean? Like these kind of things, it gives you more answers to your questions and stuff. So I think you going to OTAs, Get Your Guide, Viata or whatever, you read them first. And then you try to, come up with the candidates. And then you go there and you reserve it there. That's my way of doing it.
That's a really good recommendation. Because again, there's fees and stuff. Like if you go through TripAdvisor, maybe there's one I'm thinking of, or like Expedia, I feel like they're baked in cost that maybe you could find, some of those tours might be cheap, like you said, in person if you go up to the office. If there's an office, that's the problem too, is like finding the office. Yeah.
Right, like my travel agency doesn't have really office. We just go by OTA. So like in our cases, obviously you need to use OTA. But however, that when you come to Japan, just look for them first. And if they see if they have any office, you just go there. That's my advice.
Fantastic. Well, that's almost a perfect segue because, you mentioned that you don't have an office, you have OTA, but like, can you tell us a little bit more about your company, Umami Travel, and the vision behind it and the experiences that you're looking to offer? And what is it about your approach that kind of fills the gap where maybe there's something, other companies aren't doing what you're doing?
So Umami Travel, umami means depth of flavor, depth of savory. So we like to give you more depth into the traveling, that the places that you go to, like in comparison with West Japan, because we are actually focusing on East Japan. One of the things, there are so many things that I want to show, and then like our company is more like tailored. So we actually do the hearings first from you guys, what you want to see, what you're interested in. And then we actually, we create itineraries for you. Then it might be me, but our guide will take you on the tour. So one of the things we actually put importance on is the sustainability. You might know that our area, the Tohoku, especially on the east coast of Tohoku, is being affected by the tsunami in 2011. Since then, the areas, it's been like already 15 years, so it's been revitalized in many ways. And then during the revitalization, there are so many interesting stories, interesting things are happening in many areas. And one of the things I like to mention this in this podcast is that the place I'm actually taking people in is called Kesenuma Knitting. Kesenuma is one of the cities in Miyagi Prefecture. It's on the northern tip of Miyagi Prefecture facing the Pacific Ocean. So it's a knitting. So knitting, right? So the Kesenuma is a fisherman town and it specialized in the far deep sea fishing. So these fishermen go as far as Argentina or South Africa to fish like tunas and, all the big fish. Until they get to destination where they fish, they're plenty of time, like 3 days doing nothing. So traditionally speaking, the fishermen, because they've gone to Ireland, they go to like UK and stuff, they actually learned traditionally over generations, they've been doing this knitting because they learned it from them. So when they're on board, they make sweaters and they leave, say, in May or something, they come back in December. So when they come back, these fishermen come back with a sweater and as a present to their daughters or mother, sort of wives and so. So it's been a tradition, right? So since 2011, this lady, because the Kesenuma was devastated, demolished by tsunami and all that, people lost jobs and stuff. So they decided to train the wives of these fishermen because they're really good at like knitting as well to create these like amazing like sweaters and mufflers and stuff like that. And then they're quite expensive. They're really, really nice. And so I want to actually tell this story. I want to let people know these stories and meet these fishermen's wife. And then each sweater has got the price tag and also with the drawings of the obachans, the old lady's face on it and stuff. You don't really have to buy it or anything, but by buying this stuff, you actually help the society, help the city, and help the tradition. So this kind of destination is something that I like to create, and I like to because I've got already like 10 of something like this. And people who are interested in sustainability and the history and traditional culture of the area, and I like to take to these places.
Yeah, it sounds such a fascinating trip. And again, something that doesn't really ever pop up on, it's not something on Google.
Yeah, that's very unique.
Yeah.
A very unique experience.
And also, I make sure that the president of the Kesenuma Knitting to be there so that she can actually talk about why she started the business. And also, she can introduce these old ladies who are just knitting next to you.
That reminds me too of, and Jen, I'm sure you did this when you went to Matsue. We had our exchange program. New Orleans' sister city is Matsue. And one of the days we had local guides essentially from like the city center, culture center, community center. I forget what the name of it officially is, but 2 or 3 folks from the community that were walking us around and they would bring us to one of the oldest soy sauce manufacturing plants. And you got to go in there and you got to take the ore and you got to stir the, the soy sauce vat in the thing. We got to go to a tatami mat making store where you got to actually make your own little like tiny little rectangular one that you can hold, pretty much in your hands, but you get to make your own, like you stitch on the pattern and stuff. So you get to do those kind of things that, again, those local guides and those kind of tours are so incredible because you don't think of that when you're planning out a trip. Those things really experience the culture. And I think that those types of like tours that you're offering are just going to be really critical and important in that kind of cultural understanding.
Yeah. It's like, I think it involves more people and the stories behind. I think that's what's the difference between having a guide and without traveling solo.
You get that personal connection.
Yeah, exactly. There's just one more story I want to share.
Go for it.
In Akita, in Oga City, there is a guy who actually doing he's running a brewery called Ineto Agabe, and he makes craft sake, right? His job, his mission is not only making craft sake, but also, again, revitalize the Oga city itself because it's losing population. So I've seen his presentation and his last slide or PowerPoint, it says, let's open the shutters. Okay. So that was his like mission. So he's doing that. He's actually opening a guest house and stuff, right? But his craft sake anyway was so good, so amazingly well made that it was on first class of JNL. So there's a guy who actually went on the first class JL drunk. That was the president of Ippudo. You know Ippudo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ramen shop, right? So he got on the job and said he drunk his sake. Oh, what's this? This is so good. So the president called him up, the president of the brewery up, and say, I drank your sake and it was so nice. Can I ask you something? Or what is it? It's like, can I just serve that your sake at my Paris branch in like, in Ippudo in Paris branch? Sure, sure, sure. So that, they sold out and it was so nice. The people in Paris thought it was so nice and everything. So then after that, the president of Ippudo thanked Okazumi-san, the president of the brewery, and say, can I do something for you? I mean, it was, that was so amazing. The sake in Paris sold so well. Can I do something for you? And he said, Oga is losing population, losing places, losing shops, and then we don't have ramen shop. Can you help me opening a ramen shop? Oh, that's like my profession. Let me do it. So they opened that ramen shop. It's out of nowhere in Oga City. It's like, it's just so far from everywhere. And they serve Ippudo produced, Oga made salt, like special ramen. And then they weren't meant to sell at 1,500 yen because these are special ingredients and stuff like that. That's what the people from Ippudo told him. And he said, no, we don't do this. Not 1,500 yen. Because our mission is to revitalize this area and then make people smile. And our customers are not tourists. Our customers are main customers are people who live here. So let's make it cheaper. And now it's 980 yen.
Nice.
Yeah.
$6.
And it's $6. And he keeps doing that. So this is a story I want to tell. And I want to tell this story to the people. And then I want to take people there and then meet him and let them drink sake and buy sake and eat ramen.
That's really what it is, man. Just that story of towns shuttering up because just the population's on the decline. It's so sad to see. And it's great to see and hear that there are people that are trying to give new blood, give new life into the town.
Yeah, boosting the town up and just being more involved. I like that you're trying to get the locals more involved.
Yeah, and then also it's quite amazing to find out that these two people, the president of JSNO Manichi and the president of this the brewery, are not from Akita, are not from Miyagi. They are not local. They went there and they love the place. They decide to live there and they try to do whatever they can.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for the solo travelers who have maybe been doing Japan on their own for like years and is curious about trying a guided experience for the first time, what kind of trip are you able to build that works for them? And like, what does your ideal traveler actually look like?
Okay. Experienced solo travelers may enjoy it most because they already know the basic of Japan. Because I think they know Osaka and stuff like that. But they don't need someone to show them to buy a ticket, buy that train ticket, because they already know it. They want something deeper, I guess. Ideal traveler is not defined by age, for instance. It's defined by, I think, curiosity. Like you use the word curious, right? So curiosity. Someone who asks why instead of like where. You know what I mean? Like, because, reason why you have guide is the person who can answer your questions. In order to answer questions, I need the questions, like saying why is this, why is that, why ramen salty, you know what I mean, because this salt, So I think someone, and also not only why, but someone willing to meet people, who wants to meet locals. That's another one. And also someone who would rather hear grandmother's life story, like the JSNO Manichi, than rush to the next tourist attraction. So those travelers always leave the best memories, right? You know what I mean? Those are the ones that I like to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like more people who are kind of looking for a slower pace, maybe. I like that you use the word curious.
Yeah.
People who are curious. I think that's a really good adjective to use for what kind of traveler would be perfect for a guided tour such as yours, because it's someone who's more looking for something that's more deep instead of just on the surface of like, this is Japan. Whereas you can give them, this is like, not to be so cliche, but the real Japan.
It's all right.
Yeah. All right, so full circle, I think when we came into this episode, we had kind of phrased it and kind of imagined it as solo travel versus group travel, right?
Mm.
But as we talked, it sounded more like it's not really versus, it's more like together. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can really be a combination of both.
Right.
But group travel can really, really, really augment in a positive way your experience in Japan by getting you connected to the community and whatnot. But, let's say, for example, we have some listener out there right now listening to this episode, and they're trying to decide, how they want to approach their Japan trip. What's one thing you want them to walk away from this conversation thinking about that maybe they just hadn't considered before?
Well, I would encourage people to stop thinking about like you said, like solo travelers versus group tours. Either think of them as almost like different tools, right? You can just add two together as well. So some experiences are the best discovered completely on your own. You talked about walking in Ibaraki and looked at the sunset on the rice paddies and stuff like that. And you feel great. Maybe that only happened because you were solo. You know what I mean? So there are some experiences that you can only feel when you're on. But other experiences become unforgettable because someone opens there for you, the places that you never seen, the things that you never existed. The best trip to Japan often combine both, I think. And then spend a few days in exploring independency and then join a small tour experience, so local experience that completely changes how you see Japan. Because when you come to Japan, I think you somehow have some kind of stereotype, which is good, which is fine. But then by joining a small tour, that actually, oh my God, what I thought was completely different, was opposite, or whatever, gives you some kind of shock. That's why when I do the guiding training, I always tell people that how many times you get wow is how much satisfaction that you got from the clients, from the guests. So I think the balance is probably the future of travel in Japan.
So you just actually triggered a question in my brain that I'm kind of curious to get your answer. So if I'm trying to be spontaneous and I'm a solo traveler traveling around on my own,
yeah.
But let's say I get to a city that, or town, and I'm like, you know what? I want to get to know the community better. I didn't plan this out. I just happened to be getting off at the station. It looked cute. You want to just check it out. How do you find those local guides?
So right now, most of the small tours done in Tohoku, you actually reserve. You book it by OTAs, like Get Your Guide and then Viata. Viata is TripAdvisor. So a Japanese government are trying to insist all these tours be up on those websites so that it's visible. But unfortunately, in Tohoku area, especially in Japan in general, I would say, I don't really see that many travel agencies. You can just walk in and say, oh, can I book this, book that? Like I did in Laos. So that is something I'm actually giving advice to local governments to do that, especially in places where there are many tourists already. Nozawa Onsen, for instance, Hakuba, maybe, Nagano, and also Tokyo Station, of course, and Shibuya and all that. They don't really have that, do they? They normally you just book it online. But I think you need kind of physical touch. That's something that I want to see happening in Japan. And unfortunately, to answer your questions, in Tohoku, to be precise, I think you need to book it via OTAs.
Okay. Good to know. So, dang, next time I'm getting off at Hitachinaka Station, I can't really
Or just find these, Umami Travel, right? You just find Umami Travel and just contact us.
Yeah.
I want to see this. I want to say, can you create itinerary? That's what we can do. Yeah.
Perfect. There you go. All right. Well, before we wrap up, and we've mentioned your travel company, but we're going to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about anything else you want to bring to people's attention where they could find out more about Umami Travel, whether you have your own social media for yourself or your company, where they can find out how to follow you or find out what you have coming out on YouTube. So the floor is yours.
Right. Okay. So as we acquired Umami Travel, from now on, Ryotaro Japan as well, I like to, especially in Ryotaro Japan, I like to focus on the things that I want to take you to. I might repeat some of the things that I did abroad in Japan. For instance, I still remember the number of views in the morning market in Hachinohe was amazing. It went, I think, 2 million views, or even right now, if you just watch it, I think 3 or 4 million views maybe. So there are certain things that we covered at Abroad in Japan and Ryotaro in Japan that went viral. And I want to go back there again, and I want to show you how it is right now. And then I want to let you know those are the places that you are able to include in your itinerary when you actually call us up. And so I want to use Ryotaro Japan as your guidebook to show you the depth of Japan, umami of Japan. That's what I want to do.
What we'll do is we'll make sure we link out your Umami Travel and your websites and social media handles and all that stuff. We'll put all that in the show notes.
That's it. So then keep watching Ryotaro Japan, and then it will give you more and more places that you might want to visit in Japan, especially in northern Japan.
Okay, well, I'll be watching for sure.
I always watch. I'm subscribed.
Thank you. Thank you. And also an Instagram as well, because to make one video takes time, right? Whereas an Instagram is quite easier, to create a reel. I mean, obviously it just gives you 40 seconds and 50 seconds of information, but it's easier for me to kind of make it. I think that I make more videos or reels on Instagram as well, so that you can check that out as well.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, Ryotaro, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us. I think it was really, really, really awesome to hear about the opportunities that group travels can provide in these types of tours and a way to really build a unique connection to local communities in Japan outside of the Golden Route and Silver Route and all the other routes.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear from you that, group travel has been almost evolved since, the early 2000s.
Oh yeah, it's complete evolution. I mean, the image of the group tour has been completely transformed from 40 down to 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah, I can't wait. Now I'm going to try, at least if not my next trip, the one after, where I have a little bit more time to plan, to try to incorporate that, because I do think there's some opportunities, and I might be in touch. So we'll
definitely,
we'll keep
definitely. Let me know, and then try to create some itineraries and tour that it gives you many wow.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning into the Krewe Japan podcast. A special thank you to returning guest Ryotaro Sakurai for coming back onto the podcast to dig into the pros and cons of solo travel and group travel both, and how it's not so much of a competition as to which you want to pick for your Japan trip or any trip itinerary, but more so an opportunity to augment your travel with a combination of both styles. Make sure to give Ryotaro a follow on his Instagram and YouTube to really discover a deeper look into Japanese culture and travel. We'll have links to those, as well as Umami Travel's website and some of the other Tohoku-related group ideas, all linked out in the show notes. Are you new to the crew in Season 7? Stick around and don't be a stranger. Give us a follow and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. There's plenty in our back catalog to take you on endless audio journeys through Japanese culture. While you're there, do us a solid and leave us a 5-star rating and or review. Why not both? Every single one of those ratings and reviews helps other listeners discover Krewe Japan and join our global crew. Or hey, maybe just let a friend know about us. Any and all support is incredibly appreciated. Have any memorable group travel experiences? Share with us on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter X. Just search Krewe Japan Podcast to stay in the loop with future episodes, upcoming Japan Society events, and other Japan-related content. That's KREWEOFJAPAN, Krewe of Japan. Or if you want to reach out to us directly, shoot us an email, krewofjapanpodcast@gmail.com. We always love hearing from our listeners. But that's it for today. Until next time. Looking to start your own podcast and don't know what platform to use? Tell me about it. When we started the Krewe Japan podcast, we tried a bunch of the big name recording platforms, but always came back to the one we're still currently using to this day, Zencastr. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. In addition to its high audio and video quality for podcast production, Zencastr provides a full suite of production tools to record, produce, and publish studio quality content from the comfort of your home. Just log in through your browser and start recording. It's that simple. For us, we simply send out links to our guests and they join the lobby. But before you know it, it's all done and you have your studio quality audio. in up to 4K video right there ready for you, right when you finish. The best part is having their multi-layered backups to ensure that your recordings are in the highest quality, regardless of anyone's internet connection stability. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcasts in one place and distribute to all the major destinations. It's really that easy. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CREWOFJAPAN, KREWEOFJAPAN, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all of our podcasting and content needs. It's your time to share your story.